Hey there, everybody.
Good evening.
How's it going? Welcome to the September 26, 2011 Fellowship of the Geeks live broadcast. He's Les Webster. I'm Thomas Chick. Hope everybody's doing all right. Hope everybody's had a good couple weeks. How's things been going with you?
Good, good. Trying to catch up on some stuff.
Yeah. So you're enjoying the Monday nights that we're off, so you can actually be reading or doing something else.
I can get down with some of my books.
So are you finally finished with Flashpoint now that we're
Yes.
almost through with 52?
Yes, I have. Yeah, and it was enjoyable, even including the Booster Gold issues.
See, I missed out on Booster Gold, so I'm going to have to go back and get those.
Okay.
So I've heard they were good. So hope everybody's doing okay. Hope everybody's been having a good month.
How about you?
Pretty good. A lot of good things regarding the fellowship. This has been a great month in regards to the website. A lot of good things have been going on. A lot of good things are going on. There's some things that I've been working on that I won't go into details right now because with my luck, I'll jinx everything.
I understand.
But some good things are coming down the pike. Good things are coming down the pike. A lot of changes are on tap for the next 6-7 months, or probably longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of things going on. Of course, life is full of changes, and it's the same thing with the fellowship. So, a couple of things before we get into tonight's topic. First of all, the Hall of Fame voting is still going on. It'll go on through this Saturday at noon, which is October 1st, noon Central Time. Go over to the Hall of Fame tab. All the categories are listed, and instructions on how many you can pick and who to send the email to send them to and all that kind of stuff. So if you do want to partake in that, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's been fun reading some of the responses. You don't have to really give responses on what you're choosing. If you want to, that's fine. Second thing, also this Saturday is the next monthly gathering.
Yes.
At Comic Book Craze, 1456 Beltline Road in Garland. The schedule is Patty is to have a presentation.
Yes.
We hadn't seen him the last couple of weeks, so we're hoping things are on tap. But if not, that's fine. We can. Last month we didn't have a presentation. We just had a nice little discussion, and it was very enjoyable.
Oh yes. Yeah.
In a way, we spent 4 or 5 hours.
Yes.
4 or 5 hours just chit chatting just about everything. So if we don't have the presentation, we'll just be discussing. There is a special announcement this Saturday too, and I guess for those who aren't able to show up, I'll just email all the information next weekend. So, but hopefully, if y'all can join us.
Yeah, please do.
It's always fun. So, and another thing, like I said, it's the things that have been going on with the website and all that. I do want to thank y'all for checking the website out. Obviously, somebody's looking from the way I've been seeing the hits. So I do appreciate you checking it out. I appreciate you telling other people to check it out and spreading the sharing the links to other people. Say, hey, check, look at this. This is pretty good, or something like that. So, I just want to make sure that we're on record saying it's very much appreciated.
And well, the articles are well informed, and they cover the gamut. And
I'm working on that. I'm trying to be more expansive than just the big two.
Well, you've done quite well.
So I am working on that. I know I tend to go to that, but they're the ones that make all the big noises, and that's not fair to the other guys because they're working just as hard, if not harder.
Sure.
So I'm working on that. So I guess what we want to do next, let's go ahead and get into tonight's topic then.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. The genesis of this topic actually came from a series of articles. They're now dated about 2 years ago. Because weren't we talking about this a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Series of articles that were in two magazines, both put out by Tomorrow Publishing. One's back issue, which tends to cater more to the books published in the 70s, 80s, and now the 90s. They're going to start adding stuff for the 90s, which kind of throws me a little bit, but yeah, I mean, anything published in 90, 91 is now 20 years old.
Yeah. Hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine. It's kind of hard to think about that. And then Alter Ego, which focuses on the 40s, 50s, and 60s. The writer, Bob Rozakis, yeah, who was a writer for, I know of his stuff in the 70s for DC. He wrote Teen Titans during the late 70s and that kind of stuff. But I more know him from The Answer Man in the if you've read any of the DC comics from the 70s, there was a page toward the back that was made up like the Daily Planet, and it usually promoted some of the other books.
Right.
But there was usually a column that said, Ask the Answer Man, and it was a bunch of questions, and he answered it for you. That was him.
Yes.
He was the one who was answering the questions. So his premise was, during the late 30s, there was actually 3 companies, or I guess you would call it, not really imprints, but DC was essentially 3 companies. There was Detective Comics, where DC came from, which was Batman and a couple other characters, and then you had National
Periodical.
Which was Superman and Action Comics and some of them. Then there was All American. And All American was Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern,
Justice Society,
even though some of those characters actually came from National as well, but I mean, the book was All American.
Right.
But they were all published with the logo DC. Detective bought out or merged with National, and then eventually bought out All American. So, and with that, basically Superman, Batman became the big two of the DC world. His scenario was the opposite, where All American bought out National, Allied, or periodicals, whatever name it was.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially Flash and Green Lantern became the focus of the books.
Right.
It was a great read, especially since they actually went back and got they redid some of the covers. You know, like Brave and Bold, and Brave and Bold was starring Green Lantern, the Alan Scott Green Lantern, and then whoever else.
Yeah.
It was a great series of articles. I mean, it was really well thought out, and what the thing was it was done as interviews with writers and artists that were doing stuff at the time, but they were talking about material that never really existed. It was a great series of articles. So it got me thinking, what would have happened during the time that all this was going on, all the merging and buying and all that. Timely Comics came around. And if you're familiar with Timely Comics, it was put together by Martin Goodman. And the first characters they came up with was Submariner, Human Torch, Captain America. It basically became, it's basically what we know as Marvel now. It was, during the 40s, it was Timely. In the 50s, it became Atlas. And then it changed its name in 61 as Marvel. And that's the company that we know of today. So I was wondering what would have happened if All American or National, I guess under this scenario we would go the way it did go out. It was National Periodicals, but they bought out Timely too, as all this was going together. So basically Marvel never existed. And you just had this major company of DC Comics. I did send back issue a letter saying, is this something that y'all might be, I think it's a great idea. Is this something y'all might be interested in playing around? They did kick it around. While there was interest, they decided against doing it.
Okay.
It may be something they may do down the road. But at the time that I sent them an email, they just said, no, there's too many other things going on. And while there was interest and they kind of got excited about the idea, I guess they've already done it, so why do it again? I guess there was that kind of attitude, which is understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get that impression, but I can see them thinking that way. So, what would you think if that had happened and we didn't have
a competition?
We didn't have the competition. We had essentially a monopoly. Or who would have been their competition if there was no Marvel?
Well, I think if you look at it that way, I think Gaines and EC Comics probably still would have been around to take up the mantle.
Yeah, but Gaines got in so much trouble with the Tales of the Crypt and all that.
But I could see them saying, wait a minute, since there's one group here that's going to put all these superheroes out, we got to jump in there too. Because how many of the publishers all of a sudden thought, hey, we need Westerns? All of them did.
Yeah.
Well, they all needed romance. All of them did. They all thought that this is a part of what's hot right now.
Mm-hmm.
War books, war comics, all of a sudden were the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, eventually you would have somebody like Dark Horse rise. You may even have Valiant stick around longer than they did.
Okay.
I think that somebody would step up and say, we got better ideas.
Okay.
But if what you say is the merging that happened, and you had one conglomerate. Are you going to have all those different characters? Would the X-Men have ever existed?
In my scenario, no.
I can't see them doing the X-Men because you have the Teen Titans. You wouldn't have Fantastic Four because you got the Justice League.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, they wouldn't have thought of they wouldn't have thought of the Fantastic Four because Fantastic Four is basically, in my estimation, a super-powered version of the Challengers. And
yes.
DC already had the Challengers.
Right.
So, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're right. You're right. They're just characters that would not exist. I'm not sure that even like Wolverine would have been around. You've got so many that were created by Kirby and Lee that were the mainstay of Marvel. They were there from day one. But there are so many that have come and gone too.
Yeah.
And I just see that not everybody would have been there to stick around.
Well, and plus the fact that there's several that are basically copies of the competition.
Oh yeah, Moon Knight.
Yeah, well, Aquaman. There would be no Aquaman because you've got Namor.
Namor. Yeah.
So I mean, some of that stuff, some of those wouldn't even exist. Which,
thank God we would have no Deadpool.
No, someone probably would have come up with Deadpool. Dark Horse would have probably come up with or Image. I don't know. Yeah, you know. That's an interesting point about Wolverine.
Now,
because if we assume that everything pretty much stays the same except for some of those characters, especially because I mean, if Stan Lee was working for Timely,
yes,
as a copy boy, and then eventually got into being a writer and all that kind of stuff, and all that. So he more than likely would still be there unless he decided to say, screw it, I've got my own ideas to move off. But who would you have gone to? Would he have gone to EC? I mean, he basically got the opportunity because Martin Goodman is like an uncle or something like that.
That, or I could see him going to even Dell or somebody like that.
Okay.
Now, Dell and 4Color and all that would mainly do movies or TV shows or cartoons.
Yeah.
As their mainstay, but I could see them venturing. Well, they did have a couple, did they not? Wasn't Dr. Solar a Dell title to begin with?
I'm not sure. That's a character that has jumped around. That is a property that has jumped around a lot.
Yeah.
Let's check that out real quick.
That's
Dark
Horse.
Nope. Wrong. Check on that. Check that one.
Gold Key.
It was originally Gold Key.
Yeah. So you got Gold Key, you got Dell, which were.
Yeah, but Gold Key wasn't Gold Key like 60s? I'm not sure where Dell
was. Dell was 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And of course, Disney was around. Disney Comics were around.
But they didn't really venture anything beyond the cartoon characters, didn't they?
No, but as a publisher, you had that, or
true.
You had Archie.
Yeah. Now Archie had their own heroes.
Right.
That's where the Shield and Jaguar and the Fly and all, the Red Circles. Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean that could have been a possibility, but that's still that. The Shield was 40s, but I don't know about the others. Were they 40s or were they 50s?
50s.
Okay. So I mean, I get, so maybe Archie would have been a big competitor. I mean, I don't want to put anything down to EC, but EC didn't really they didn't do superheroes. It was westerns, crime, and then of course there's the horror. They did almost everything else but the heroes. If I'm remembering correctly.
That's true. And they were doing 8-page stories rather than
a feature length,
a 28 or 32-page story.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it would have been. It would have been. I've thought about this off and on, and it would have been such a cool idea, but I don't know.
Yeah, I could see, because I guess I'm so ingrained with DC not doing mutants
Mm-hmm.
that X-Men would not exist. But I mean, that would also take out the Hulk. The idea of a person hit with gamma rays. Of course, Man-Thing would be gone because you already had Swamp Thing.
Well, yeah. Well, and then, but if you talk about all the characters that were done by radiation, then wouldn't that eliminate Spider-Man too?
Yeah. Very possible.
We already talked about the Fantastic Four. That they would have been necessary.
And well, let me think here. Who would have been around? Who from Marvel would have made it?
Well, let me. Iron Man.
Yes.
If they wanted to go down this path, Thor.
Yeah.
They didn't really mess with DC. Didn't really mess with gods, but
well, other than late '70s when they brought in the New Gods.
Yeah.
They brought in their own brand.
They could have brought back the original Human Torch, the android.
Yes. Well, then would that take out Red Tornado? Because I mean, you're going to do androids all over the place.
Well, you wouldn't do Red Tornado because you have Vision. Or
one or the other.
Yeah. One or the other. Actually, I've got a note on that.
Amazo.
Red Tornado actually appeared a month earlier before Vision, but in my scenario, I use Vision.
Yeah.
Because Vision's a more, in terms of power. Tornado does tornadoes, but Vision phases through walls. He has other. He has more to him than just generating wind.
Yeah.
You also have all the invaders. You would have Union Jack. You would have Miss America. Of course, Submariner. We already talked about. Doctor Strange. If they wanted to go down the path of Magician, they had Zatanna.
Yeah.
Or they could have just brought back Zatara and say it's the same thing.
Right. And I think Zatara was around before Strange was.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Wasn't Zatara back in the 40s?
Yeah. I think he was a member of the Justice Society at one time.
Of the 60s, and of course, of the characters that were created in the Marvel's infancy, that's pretty much it. Of course, we mentioned Captain America, but I mean, you wouldn't have Ant-Man because we already had Adam.
Right.
And if we decided for this scenario, we won't have the radiation characters, like you said. We won't have Hulk, Spider-Man. Who else is there? Radiation. Oh, you know, you already talked about no mutants. If they didn't want to go down that path, I mean, God, that's a lot of characters gone.
Yeah,
That's
that would just essentially wipe out Marvel.
No more.
No more mutants, yeah. Now, I would like to have a copy of the first appearances of Torah myself.
Action 1.
Action number 1.
That's what I kind of figured. Just going through.
Okay, now I know you've got them banded there too, just as groups. And
Yeah, well,
that's interesting.
Well, but I didn't think of it in the scope of, like you were just talking about DC possibly not going through origins with radiation or the mutant gene or that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I can go ahead and throw this out.
But you got to if I may, let's
Okay.
backtrack a second.
Okay.
Radiation movies were huge in the 50s.
Yeah, that's true.
You can start with them. You can go from there to Tarantula to the
Attack of the 50-Foot Woman,
Yeah,
and 50-Foot Man,
yeah,
and all that. Shrinking Man.
Right. So that could have given them the nugget to do something. And it could have. Richard Matheson's Incredible Shrinking Man may have given the idea for the Atom.
Could have been. But thinking back, well, and Captain Comet was they called him a mutant.
Yeah.
But he was like the only, they didn't really go beyond him.
Right.
They didn't do an entire race. It was just, which actually makes kind of sense because, I mean, a mutant, you wouldn't think that a mutant would be just this entire, you know, what am I trying to say? You wouldn't expect about 1 million mutants. Like they're
Right.
like what happened there to a certain point before Marvel decided, well, this is a little too much, so let's try to do the whole no more mutants thing and wipe them down to just under 200. But DC didn't really go down that path. I think this Captain Comet was a mutant because he had telekinesis, and that was pretty much it. And that was just enough for them to just go on and let him have his adventures in space.
Yeah.
That was enough. So.
Yes, it says here that along with Namor and Toro, the sidekick of the original Human Torch, Captain Comet was among the first mutant metahuman superheroes, and predated the X-Men by 12 years.
See, here's the thing, because I know Marvel does, and we're going to get off sidetrack here a little bit, and I apologize for that. But that's something that has bugged the hell out of me. As far as I know, and maybe I need to do some research. This may be what I'll do here in the next couple of days. It was only within the last 20 years or so that Marvel's really pushed that Namor is the first mutant superhero.
Yeah.
I would love to get my hands on the first couple of books and see if they even mention the fact that he's mutant. I mean, they talk about the fact that one parent was human, the other one was Atlantean. So I guess by that they could say he's mutant because they're different races. But they never actually. Captain Comet, they came out and said he's a mutant.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. To my knowledge, and if I'm wrong, please send me an email at email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Tell me where they mention anything between 1939 and 54, 55, 56, wherever Captain Comet started, if they actually mentioned the fact that he is a mutant, because I don't think they mentioned Toro was a mutant. I think Captain Comet is the first mentioned mutant. And I'm not trying to wave a DC flag here. I'm just telling the truth.
Yeah.
That was something that they did not promote back then in the 40s or so, but now, here the last 20 years or so, they're like, Marvel's first mutant, which was, a word they didn't use until X-Men.
And granted, he predated, Namor predated Captain Comet by 12 years.
Yeah.
Comet was in 51.
Okay, 51. All right.
And Namor was in 39. But that doesn't mean from 39 to 51 they said he was a mutant. There may, like you said, there may have been zero mention that he was a mutant.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they mentioned the fact that I think his mom was Atlantean and his dad was human, or vice versa, because that's also Aquaman. I don't, but still, they didn't actually come out and say he was a mutant. Where I'm pretty sure, from what I read of the old Captain Comet stuff, I mean, it was out there.
Yeah,
he was a mutant, because that's how they explain his telekinesis, and I'm not sure whatever the powers he has. I guess flight and that kind of thing, but I mean, they actually said he's a mutant. But I don't think they did that for Namor. Not until we got off topic. But I mean,
if I may,
go ahead.
Captain Comet's abilities: clairvoyance, genius intelligence, telekinesis, telepathy, teleportation, superhuman strength, endurance, and durability.
Okay.
So, I mean, several,
yeah.
But if he was the original mutant, that no one even steps forward and says, I mean, like you say, Marvel or DC's not standing there going, wait a second.
Yeah.
Our guy was told to be a mutant from word go.
Yeah.
And yours was the crossbreeding, and then all of a sudden he's a mutant.
Which, to me, are two different things.
Yeah.
Because a mutant, even by their Marvel's explanation, is just something different between... It just happens. I mean, a man and woman, perfectly normal and all that, have an offspring, and that offspring all of a sudden it's a mutant because there's just something different. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that one's an alien or Atlantean or someone from Mars.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I'm starting to, now that we're talking about this and I'm thinking more and more about it, I think it's just a whole PR stunt, which, surprise, it's Marvel. So, we may need to cry BS on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that even defies their own definition of what a mutant is, and we're really getting off topic now.
Have they done a publication of Submariner stories, the early stuff?
Maybe an archive edition, I guess. I don't know. I'll have to look. But wow, now that
we're way off track.
We're way off track, but this is getting me a little bit more steamed up now. But, they're not the first ones, and they won't be the last ones that don't abide by their rules. I've always jumped on, as much as I'm a big fan of Whedon, Joss Whedon, he didn't follow the rules on. They didn't follow the rules on Buffy or Angel. Now, and what I'm talking about is what was established in the first season was a vampire bites you, and then you bite him back, and then 3 days later, or I believe, if I remember correctly, 3 days later you become a vampire, which is a rule they threw out about a couple seasons in, and just if you're automatically bitten by a vampire, you become a vampire.
Which doesn't or follow Stoker at all.
Well, but it's just like any others. They set rules and then decide to abide by those rules or not for story purposes.
Yeah.
And I hate that. And that I don't say Joss is what doesn't smell, but I mean it just I do drink the blue Kool-Aid, or blue milk, but I do I have a problem with that because you went out of your way to establish rules, and I'm going back now. I'm really off topic, but I'm going back to the whole thing with the mutant. They set down in X-Men, the early books, this is what a mutant is. And now, 30 years later, they turn around and say, our very first character, who's born of 2 different races, is a mutant, which is against their own rules. Yes, rules are meant to be broken, but even for artistic reasons, but no.
if I may.
Sure.
Under Namor. And I know this is Wikipedia. Can't believe everything in Wikipedia.
No, you can't. It's more reliable than IMDb, but that's not saying a hell of a lot.
In X-Men number 6, July of '64, X-Men leader Professor Xavier and antagonist Magneto each suspect Namor is a mutant. Later, writers in the 60s and 70s described him as a hybrid, not a mutant, in order to distinguish him from the mutant X-Men. When the series was revived in 1990, the series title logo carried the subtitle, Marvel's First and Mightiest Mutant.
So they're even fighting themselves.
Right. They're defying their own
and hybrid is right.
Yeah.
He's Spock.
Yeah.
Spock is hybrid.
He's
human.
Aquaman.
Yeah. Spock is half human, half Vulcan. I mean, it's the same thing.
Right.
He's not a mutant.
Right.
So, if I was in charge of Marvel, I would change that. But whatever. They don't know how to handle Namor anyway.
He's had his own title 3 times.
At least.
Once in the 70s.
And then in the 90s, as mentioned.
In the 90s.
And then he just had one that lasted 11 issues, which got canceled. But it was mentioned, but he was tied into all the mutant books. They keep doing that. They keep doing stuff like that. Remember, Cloak and Dagger, at what time was thought to be mutants.
Yeah.
And then they changed that.
Right.
Thank God.
Yes. Yeah, because I didn't see them as mutants. They were
ultra humans.
Right.
It was something,
having to do with drugs.
Yes.
That was their drug scene stories.
The drugs changed them because they were different. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're mutants.
It wasn't. It was kind of their take of Speedy stories in Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Although Speedy didn't become a super-powered person because of...
Yeah.
His was dealt more realistically. But...
Yeah. Okay, getting back to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
Back on the road now.
Okay.
So, have we really established who would have been I guess EC would have been for a bit, or Dell or Disney or some of our
Yeah,
people.
if you're looking in the 50s to pick up the mantle for other superheroes, another title or another publisher of superheroes,
Mm-hmm.
it would be EC. 60s might have been Gold Key.
Because of all the license.
Yeah.
The licensed properties.
But, well, that was more Dell. Dell was more the license. The Gold
What
Key.
was Gold Key?
Huh?
What was Gold Key? Because didn't Gold Key have like Star Trek books in the 60s?
Later, yeah.
Yeah.
But they also had Turok, and they had
That's true.
Dr.
Solar and Magnus, the robot
Magnus Robot Fighter, things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And I could see them branching out more to take in mutants. And say, yeah, okay, if DC doesn't want to work with this type of character, we'll take the stories and make something out of it.
They would have looked different too, because I could see Kirby, since he was already working for DC in the 40s and late 40s and early 50s, that he would have still been there. He never would have left, because he would have moved over when Timely got bought out. Him and Simon created Captain America, and he would have just stayed there. You know, man, think about all the stuff he would have created if he actually had been let loose. Because
Yeah.
they didn't really let him loose until when he came over to DC in the 70s.
Yeah, when he did with Forever People and
Did the whole Fourth World and Demon and Commandy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, granted, Commandy is basically Planet of the Apes to a certain degree, but still.
It was an enjoyable read.
I mean, you can see where the influence was, but it was not a direct steal.
No.
I mean, there was enough difference that where it was on its own.
Right.
You have the chat room up?
Yeah.
Because I can't see it from here. Well, hang on. Hang on, we're checking something out here real quick.
Here we go.
Okay. Well, I mean, while we have a moment, do we have any questions from the chat room? If you're watching this on Ustream, if you go to www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net and go to the broadcast tab, we have the screen there, and we have a chat room. All you have to do is just
hook in.
Just sign in. There's no cost or anything. Just join us in the chat room. Ask us questions or comments, whatever. We're more than happy to respond in any way. We would appreciate it. So, what were you looking at? What were you looking for?
I had just been looking at Commandy.
Uh-huh.
And see what was listed there. That was 72 that was created. So was that before Kazar?
No, I think Hazar was late 60s.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but that's because he did meet the original
X-Men.
Second, there you go. The version that you're thinking of, well,
70?
I sure thought it was earlier than that, but I guess not. But still, it's still a couple of years before. And it's actually a version based off of a... Okay, there you go.
He first appeared in March of 65.
Okay, X-Men. So, yeah. Okay. So, I was kind of remembering right.
Yeah.
But wasn't sure. So... I mean, we'll never know, but it's. I love these kind of things.
What ifs?
Yeah, I kind of miss the what ifs. Although a lot of the what ifs of Marvel and some Elseworlds to a lesser degree, but what ifs, it was just some of them were really just bad premise. Just instead of this happened, where you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. What if Spider-Man never battled the Vulture, we'll say? Or what if the Vulture had won? Then, yeah, you could do a whole story, but obviously those what ifs did not go into the continuity.
Yeah. Well, like the very first one. What if Spider-Man had joined the Fantastic Four? So for a period of time, it was 5, and then Sue Storm literally felt like the fifth wheel. She left, and she basically married Namor.
Yeah.
And then so they're back to 4 again, and then they just kept on going. Okay. I mean, they've come up with some good ones that are, which I can't recall some right now because I hadn't really thought about it. But I mean, some of them are really, really good. What if Jean Grey hadn't died? What if Phoenix had the first time?
Yeah.
That was a good story.
Yeah.
And some of them, what if the world knew that Daredevil was blind?
Okay.
That was a decent story. Some of them are real good, and some of them you're just like, it's a flimsy premise, but okay. And the story turned out to be okay, but
usually it was a battle that the heroes won, and they turned it around and said, "What if the villain?"
Some.
That's what I mainly remember the stories being.
What if Spider-Man couldn't get the Semonite off of him because it was almost dicey the last time he tried, and so they were just saying, well, what if he couldn't? And he went on, or if it joined someone else. Now there's some of them that are stupid, like what if the Venom had joined Deadpool? You're like, okay, no,
Dumb on 2 parts.
Anyway.
Now, and you brought up Elseworlds, the difference there being DC tells you out front that this is not part of continuity and that it's taking familiar characters and putting them in a different role. And some of those are really well done.
Yeah, they say they're totally different. Where What If is just it's kind of continuity, but instead of yin, it went yang.
Right.
Yeah. Some good ones. Gotham by Gaslight.
Oh yes.
Red Sun.
Yeah. The Nail.
The Nail. The second one was Another Nail was not good.
No.
The Nail was good.
The Red Rain series of Batman, the 3 novels there.
I thought the first one was good, but they kind of started going downhill, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it lacked a little bit, but
I guess the whole thing was the fact that Batman became a vampire at the end of the first one, and then they go, well, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
So
let's try to get him to fight back.
Yeah.
Become human again.
So But yeah, but there were some good what ifs too. We're not gonna
Oh, sure. Yeah.
we're not trying to do any bashing here, but I mean there were some bad ones on both sides. So yeah, that would suck. No Moon Knight. I like Moon Knight. Can we still have Moon Knight in this universe?
Yeah.
um, of course, like it said no Fantastic Four, but they already have their Mr. Fantastic and Plastic Man, so there wouldn't be Elongated Man either, which sucks because I'm a big Elongated Man fan.
Yeah. The thing about Ralph Dibny was that it was always a mystery that he was trying to solve, and that was those done-in-one issues.
Yeah.
Where it was a backup story. It was about 8 pages long, and he solved the mystery right there.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. And of course, he was first friends with the Flash, where he found about Gingold or Gingold or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That gave him his power. But then Mr. Fantastic has the scientific attitude and some great premise there, but Plastic Man was done as laughs. It was
even originally. I've not read the 40s stuff.
Yeah,
really.
Doiby Dickel.
Yeah, true.
It was always around, so it was done more for comedy than it was a serious storyline. Now, granted, he's humorous in his presentations now, yet it's a more serious story arc than.
I don't know. He got pretty wild there in the JLA.
But the JLA was a serious story. It wasn't.
Yeah,
he got to be humorous in a serious story.
He was the buffoon. He was the comic relief in the whole thing.
Right. He was the Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Yeah, that allowed Blue Gold to be considered serious.
Yeah.
Okay.
May I see your list?
Sure. Take a look at my list.
You have the Avengers as Black Canary, Goliath, the Elongated Man, Falcon, Hawkman, She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Captain Britain, Mr. Miracle, Luke Cage, Firestorm, Iron Fist. And although some of these may be close to one another, Falcon and Hawkman will say, in the Justice League though, DC doesn't have everybody there at one time.
Yeah.
You have 5 to 7 characters there.
Yeah, that was my whole thinking on that.
Yeah, and so you can rotate. The story you have Hawkman, and then the next 3 stories you have Falcon, and then you go back to Hawkman, or have neither one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are interesting. I think you did a good listing here.
I appreciate that. I would love to see those books.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of these would be fun to watch, fun to look at. Total enjoyment to read.
Yeah. It never happened, but...
No, we have 2 large groups that have huge egos.
Yeah. That's true. Hell, we'll never know if we actually even have crossovers again.
Which we've discussed, and
yeah, we discussed before, and
we'd love crossovers. We'd love amalgams again.
Yeah, we've already been told that there's no interest there, but
well, it's mainly been one-sided there, though. I would think that I really believe that DC would like to try again. Because it boosted their sales.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, DC might, but I know Dan DeVito doesn't.
Yeah.
I think Jim Lee may be open, but then again, he may get a better chance because it's Jim Lee and he still has friends with Marvel. Where if it's just Dan DeVito,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think he has a lot of friends over at Marvel.
No, maybe kind of difficult for him to find that.
Yeah. So it's funny because you talk about Teen Titans. I know you saw my list. It's basically the original Teen Titans with the X-Men, the original X-Men, which made sense because they were all kids.
Yes.
That's how they were designed. They were not adults, like for the most part, like they are now, or even the '70s incarnation. They were already young adults.
Yeah.
I mean, like 21, that kind of thing. So, of course, I threw Rick Jones in there too.
Where'd you put Snapper Carr then?
I tried to forget Snapper Carr. At least Rick Jones did something.
No, but Snapper was the chronicler.
Yeah, but Bucky actually fought. He was Bucky for a while, so yeah, he can actually kick butt where Snapper. That's pretty much that, and then telling the story. That was his job.
Well, didn't he do one? Well, obviously he saved the Justice League. That's how he became a member of the League originally.
Well, Wesley saved the Enterprise too. So.
And what'd that get him? Got him a role on Eureka, or?
And got people making fun of him 10 or 20 years later, and he gets pissed off because they're calling his character's name. Wesley.
Well, what were we saying just before that?
Well, we were just talking about the Teen Titans with the original X-Men and at the ages. But before that?
No, after that.
Well, we were kind of going over Rick Jones versus Snapper Carr.
Jones, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Rick Jones is a professional sidekick. Not many people can say they were a sidekick to Hulk, Captain America, and Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And still live.
Still be alive.
Yep.
Yeah. Snapper was in The Brave and the Bold number 28.
Yep. Any questions in the chat room at all? Any comments? Don't look like it.
Don't see any.
No. Well, I mean, it's fun. That's kind of what I wanted to do, was something kind of a little fun and think about.
We'd like your responses. If you listen to this at a later time, send us an email.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And give us a response, because that's where we get some motivations.
Yeah, send an email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you think we're totally off base, or you like what we were talking about, or have some different ideas, please let us know.
Yes.
We would definitely love to hear what you had to say. I'll go ahead and call it, right? Yeah. Okay. That is pretty much what we have for tonight. We were going to talk something else, but we'll save it for another time. Just a reminder that we'll be back on the 10th, 2 weeks from tonight. And we should have some special guests here. The plan is to have Jake from Awesome Comics and Joel from Comic Book Craze, to have them on board. And we want to discuss, we're just about through the first month of the new DC. Want to get their input on how, I mean, we've been hearing how the sales have been, or at least how the orders have been going with Diamond and all that. But we want to hear what what they've been seeing in terms of sales. And then we just want to talk to them in general about the state of comics and how they're doing here in the North Texas area, and what they hear that's going on in the rest of the country, and just the general state of the industry as retailers. So that's 2 weeks from tonight, October 10th. Just a reminder that the Hall of Fame voting is still going on through October 1st at noon Central. www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Click on Hall of Fame tab. There's all the selections, all the rules on how many you can select. Send them to me. The input's been interesting so far. Please vote.
Yeah, we'd like to know.
Yeah.
It's a simple process to vote, and we feel like it's something that's viable, because we do have the creators listed there, and we want to know who you folks would follow. Who do you think are the important people, those that gave the most to the industry? And we've got our choices, of course.
Right.
And we want to know what everybody else is thinking about.
Okay, and for those in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, just a reminder, the next meeting is this Saturday, the 1st, 6 p.m. at Comic Book Craze. Y'all probably should know where it's located, 1456 Beltline Road. Trying to think if there's anything. I don't think there's really anything else. Just thank you for watching us tonight. As always, thank you either here live or in repeat. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for coming to the website.
Yes.
Thank you for following us on Facebook. If you don't follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/the Fellowship of the Geeks. We're on Twitter now, and have been for a couple of months, at Fellowship Geeks. I always post stuff on the news updates on Facebook or Twitter, and they hit each other, so you're not going to be left out as long as you're following us there. I think that's it. So y'all have a good night. Y'all have a good couple weeks, and we will see you on the 10th.
Good night.
Good night.